location is everything. You can find the perfect home in the wrong community, and I think down the road you're going to regret that if you're not near where you want to be in the city.
Okay, welcome to the Calgary Real Estate Insider podcast. My name is Dustin Paisley, and today we have Rachel Jones. Rachel, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Honored to be
S-
here.
Of course. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Give me your 60-second intro.
Yeah, perfect. So I actually moved to Calgary from the UK when I was 9. So moved here, but I've lived here my whole life. So it's my home. I love it here. And I started my career in the fitness industry. So I spent about 10 years in the personal training space, nutrition, all of that. Managed a studio in Mission in Calgary for quite some time and was ready for a pivot and just a new challenge, something different, kind of take my career to the next level. So I got into the real estate world just last year and I'm here now. So,
What made you want to get into real estate?
you know what? I have always had a passion for real estate. I've always been very intrigued, and my family are general contractors as well. So I've kind of always been surrounded by it, if you will. And I think, fitness was a passion for me. So in my early 20s, it was easy to get into, and I still love it. It's a huge part of my life. But I think I was just looking for something that was, again, a little more of a solid career, something that had a little more longevity. And I'm quite entrepreneurial, quite driven. So it kind of felt like a little bit of an automatic step with having that passion for the space. And when I went through the process of selling and buying a home myself, I really got to experience it and saw it's such a big thing for people to go through. And I'm such a people person. So it was kind of, I just got pulled into it. So
That's awesome. They say the
yeah,
first couple years are the hardest starting out as a realtor. So
for
how are you
sure.
finding, year one?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely new. And again, being, now 31 and starting a new career is, has its challenges for sure. But I think the big key is having the right people around you. So I'm part of a team, Top Calgary Real Estate, which they're incredible. My mentor has been incredible, Justin Worthy, and he's been in the industry for a very long time. So I think having the right people around you, having mentorship, I think being on a team for me was key. That was something I kind of knew I wanted.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that helps, and just having that assistance, because I think just going and doing it on your own is a whirlwind, I can imagine. So I think, having the right people around you and just understanding that it is going to be a process. And I think I feel quite thankful. I had a lot of people give me the heads up. They're like, exactly, the first 3, 5 years, it's a grind, right? So I think
Mhm.
you've got to kind of lean into that and just keep doing the work and trusting the process. And I think some days it's easier to remember that than others. But I think that's all part of it. And I think, the hard things in life are often those that are worth it. So
Yeah, 100%. So this podcast is a little bit more focused on kind of the end buyer, people who are just entering the market. They're trying to find, out what should they know, what's the market doing, what kind of product types. So tell me in your first kind of year, what are some things you've noticed about the Calgary market that, being an outsider maybe surprised you or you weren't sort of expecting? What's the, 1 year in knowledge that you can spill?
totally. I would say one of the big things that I guess surprised me a little bit was how different the different quadrants of the city are. Like, I think people think about the Calgary real estate market as one whole, and I would argue strongly that that's not the case. As I'm sure you know as well, it's not
Hmm.
only the quadrants, but the type of homes you're purchasing. It's not like a townhouse is not created equal to a single family detached home, and a house in the southwest in comparison to the southeast is going to be different. So I think understanding that and understanding where you're shopping, what you're looking for, some people might say the market is bad, but it could be just what they're looking at that time. So I think that was definitely quite eye-opening for me. I find in Calgary too, we all kind of like we find our quadrant. Like I was born and raised in the southeast, and then I did move to the southwest, and I think I will live and die here. But you get in your little bubble. So I think when you lean into what that is and where you want to be, understanding that, yeah, the market can perform vastly different depending on whereabouts in the city you are. And again, what kind of home you're looking for too.
Now, does that make it more difficult as an agent to have to stick into specific quadrants or know nuances of different areas, or is that more of an opportunity?
I think it can be more of an opportunity, to be honest. I think it gives you a chance to sharpen your skills for one. It forces you to stay in the know of what's happening in different areas.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that that is a benefit for sure. And I think it also kind of helps in the sense that, if Calgary was all one and the market was down, you're stuck in that, right? Versus like if the Northwest is performing quite well, you can kind of try and tap into that a little bit more, which I
Right.
think as a career standpoint can definitely be a benefit.
Yeah. So being relatively younger, I'm assuming you're
Mhm.
working with some kind of first home buyers or people kind of within, I'll say our age range.
Yes.
What are some of the questions, concerns, thing that you're seeing from that demographic right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think getting into the market is a challenge, right? I think as we know in exactly our age, it's hard to go from a rental to be able to have the means to get yourself into buying. So I think that's definitely a challenge for people that are younger nowadays. It's just, if you don't have support, it can be really hard to even get into the market.
Hmm.
And then I think as far as the people that do get there and they are in the market is just understanding the process, because I think, like you were saying previously with being an outsider, you don't understand. And I think from the outside, buying a home can feel terrifying and overwhelming, and there's
Hmm.
so many moving parts. So I think that that's oftentimes what I'm typically hearing is just, okay, what does this look like? How do we do this, that? And I think that's where having, an agent or your whole team, including your mortgage broker, your lawyers, like everything, is really important, because you don't know what you don't know, right? So
Yeah, and I've heard the term like the perfect time, right? People are waiting for the perfect home or the perfect time. And what you just mentioned is having the team in place. What do you recommend to someone who's just starting their search? Because I think in a lot of cases they'll maybe be looking, they'll maybe talk to an agent, but then they'll find the home and they want to act quick. But if they don't have all the things in place yet, if you're in the right quadrant or right neighborhood, it can move pretty quickly. So what do you recommend for someone who's kind of just getting out, just starting their search? What do they need to know?
totally, I think being prepared is the biggest thing I can say, and giving yourself more time than you probably think. That's not always possible, I understand, but I think if you have the time to say, okay, I want to start shopping at this period, I want to be moved in by this period, and kind of work your way back from when your ideal moving date is going to be, I think is really important, because having your pre-approval before you even get out the door is
Hmm.
so important, because I've seen it, I mean, even in my short period of time, where people get out and in their mind that they're going to be qualified for XYZ, and then they're like, okay, I found the home I like. They fall in love with it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I actually can't qualify for this. And that's so disheartening. So I now am like, I won't even take someone out really until they're pre-approved, because I don't want them to be in that situation.
Right.
So I think doing your work ahead of time, and that means exactly getting your mortgage pre-approval, that, and the neighborhood, like you're saying, location is everything. You can find the perfect home in the wrong community, and I think down the road you're going to regret that if you're not near where you want to be in the city. So those
Mhm.
are the two biggest things I definitely say is like have your pre-approval, have your community in mind, and obviously your big non-negotiables that you need X amount of bedrooms, you need a garage, all of those things. But I think having those in your mind before you even go out is just the most important things, I would say.
Yeah, and so for someone who does get disappointed or they get themselves into a situation where they are going for something, they like something, don't qualify. The biggest thing that we hear right now is affordability, right? And
Hmm.
we're a developer of new townhomes that we're selling, and we see all the time, right? People, even at like the at entry level price point, people just aren't qualifying. So
Hmm.
what does that look like? What is the steps you have to take in order to get qualified? And for someone who is starting their search, can you share a little bit of information about what someone needs to do or what they might want to have in place to even start that process?
For sure. So I think, I mean, definitely connecting with a mortgage broker, they're going to be your person to help you go through that. But things like your income, any debt you may have, any savings you may have, things like car payments, right? Like any loans, that's definitely important to understand that that is going to come into play. And I always say too, especially as a first-time home buyer, the more you can eliminate things like that. And again, we all have payments and things that come up, but I think if you know that you want to buy in the next couple years, taking out a car payment might not be your best move. So I think, really trying to tighten up your finances as much as you can to be, as approachable, I guess, to a mortgage lender as possible beforehand.
Hmm.
But then when you're actually in the process, exactly, just having all of those documents ready to go for your mortgage broker, and they'll step by step tell you what you need. But being as prepared as you can with those kind of documentations and having your finances in line and knowing where your spending is, I think is helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I had a mortgage broker on a little while ago, and I think
Yeah,
one of the terms she used was living the payment, right? Is there's one thing to want to go for that house, but there's another thing to have to manage the payments of your mortgage. And that was her biggest piece of advice to first-time home buyers was really understanding what living that payment looks like and how that kind of fits into the affordability of your lifestyle.
for sure. And I always say it's like even when you get your pre-approval amount, it's like just because you can doesn't mean you should. And if, sure you might qualify for a certain amount, but if that's gonna be mean you can't go out for dinner with your friends or you can't take a vacation or you're literally housebound because you have no other means, it's
Hmm.
probably not the right home for you at this point. And that might mean that you wait a little bit and that's okay. Or that might mean we just readjust and look at, what else we can find you within your budget right now. Because that's just it. It's living is so expensive. I mean, we all feel it when we even go to the grocery store now, right? It's mind blowing. So,
Hmm.
you don't want to put yourself in a position just to get into the real estate market that you're going to regret.
Has that changed a lot of the buyer behavior? And for those that are just entering the market, is that a new normal? Is that a new reality? Like, what does that look like? Are people buying more condos to start? Are they moving to towns? Like, does that change the product type? I'm curious to see what you've noticed over the last year.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm fairly new, so I wouldn't know too far back, but I would say that, exactly, the first time home now is typically looking like a row townhouse maybe or an apartment versus, I mean, you think about our parents and what they were buying for their first time home and what they were buying them for, it's
Hmm.
changed drastically, right? So I think, we're definitely seeing that.
Yeah, and it's a big change. So I know that one of the things that your team focuses on is off-market opportunities.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about for someone who's new to the market, what does that mean? What's an off-market opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. So when there's a listing that has gone live, for example, you see the for sale sign, you see it on realtor.ca, that listing is on the market. So you can see it, realtors can see it. Off-market opportunities are those properties that haven't come to market. So that could be things like, a builder's building a home and they haven't brought it to market yet. There's oftentimes too where we have clients where they're looking for a home, and this is kind of where my team started leaning into this is they're looking for a home, they cannot find anything. They've been looking for 6 months and just not the right properties coming to market. So that's why having those connections with builders that maybe you're in the process of building something, or even, as much as going out and door knocking neighborhoods. Like we have clients who they're looking for a specific neighborhood, a specific style home, and we'll go out there and literally knock doors and talk to people. And oftentimes there's sellers that maybe they've been thinking about it and they also don't want to go through the process of listing their house, getting the photos done, having showings, doing all that, or even know what their property is worth. And then, you can knock on the door and say, hey, look, I have a buyer that could potentially be interested in your property. So you helped your client find something, and you've also now helped out someone that maybe didn't even know what they could do for themselves. So we do focus on that quite a bit.
Wow. And as a percentage, like how often do you find that that process has to happen?
I mean, not overly often, but it's just always something that we'd be willing to do for our clients, right? It's like
Mm.
sometimes there's just not the opportunity's not available, and sometimes you have to go find that opportunity, right? In any business or industry, sometimes you got to look a little bit harder. And then again, like I was saying with builders too, they have properties where if they haven't even finished to completion, maybe it's not hit the market yet. That's kind of another opportunity as well from the builder's standpoint to get that done, as you know, so that you guys can move on to the next project.
Hmm. And the irony in that, and I find the dichotomy of Calgary's market is that in some areas you just have this massive oversupply of product, and then in some areas you search for 6 months and you can't find what you're looking for. So
Totally.
it's also interesting to see the various product types that come along. What
Hmm.
have you seen some of your clients gravitate towards? Do you have a particular segment that's sort of been a popular mix?
You know what? I mean, we're kind of all over. We do definitely like prominently in the inner city. We're located in Marda Loop as well, so that's kind of our bubble. But I mean, people are still shopping all over for sure. But I will say those like Southwest inner city communities are, I think they're just always going to be hot.
Hmm.
So
Continues to be in demand.
totally, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of inner city, I know
Hmm.
a hot topic over the last year has been redevelopment and
Hmm.
rezoning and all that fun stuff. What do you know about rezoning and what's your kind of take on what is going to happen in the next couple months here as the new rezoning launches next month?
Totally. I mean, it's hard to say what's going to happen. And I see it from both perspectives, right? It's like as the homeowner living in a community where now there's eightplexes there and there's townhouses there, it's tough. But also from a builder's perspective and an investor's perspective, it's so hard. It's hard to know where that's kind of going to land. And I'm sure you guys have kind of probably felt the effects of this
Hmm.
too, right? So we'll have to see what they kind of come back with. I think, it's doesn't change much as far as if you're trying to build a single family home, but I think as far as investors go, it's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens. I do think those end lots are going to just hold even more value now,
Yep.
just due to the fact that you've got the more space. They've always held more value, but now having the opportunity to probably be able to have a few more properties in those. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where that lands over the next few months for sure.
Hmm. And just to clarify that those end lots in most communities are now the only ones that can be developed on, correct?
Totally. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Hence why
again,
we
for
get,
investors, builders, it's
yeah.
huge.
So what have you seen happen in the investor pool recently? Like, is it a hold and wait and see what happens, or is there still a lot of activity?
There's definitely still some activity. I think there's definitely been some hesitation a little bit, right? When people just kind of don't know where it's going to land.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's still opportunity within the city. But again, it's not quite what it was previously, right? It was easy before to just find a lot, the lot's the right size, you can put up a six,
Hmm.
four, whatever you want to put up there. And again, I recognize that from both parties, but I think there's still some activity going on, but I think there's definitely a little bit of pause until we understand what's going to happen.
Do you expect there to be some pent-up demand from investors who've been kind of waiting and now it's time to jump? Or
I mean, there definitely could be.
yeah, yeah. How often do you work with that type of buyer?
Our team works with them quite a bit. So Justin, my team lead, he works with them quite often.
Yeah,
So I don't work with them quite as much, but it's definitely a big part of what we do here. So
yeah, but you see it. Um,
yeah.
in terms of how that reshuffles, I mean, part of the conversation is around sort of the redesigning of these neighborhoods and how
Mhm.
now there's a limited product gap in terms of, let's say, buying a townhome inner city because they're now all going to rentals. Are you seeing people having to move within the city? And as an example, I think a lot of younger people are now moving far suburbs so they can get kind of their starter home for a fair price versus being able to get access to a certain product type in the inner city.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I do always say that it's like what you can get for $400,000 within the city right now is so vastly different depending on where you want to go. And that want for the inner city, especially with younger people, is just, I think it's there. So
Hmm.
I do think people are looking at exactly southeast if they want more space, if they don't want a condo. They'll move to the southeast because you could get, a three-story townhouse for 400.
Hmm.
Another community we're seeing quite a bit in is Bonus. So I actually had a row townhouse to sell there last week, and I have another one going live tomorrow as well. So that's kind of like, I think, becoming a little bit of a happy medium as far as the community goes. It's, not downtown, but you're close to the inner city. You're close to the mountains, so you're kind of getting that additional perk of being in Calgary.
Yeah.
But you're still getting some decent square footage. You can still get a townhouse for that price. Some of them obviously could be a little bit older, but there are a lot of new builds going up in that community as well. So I think that's a bit of a up and coming area, to be honest.
For sure. We've built quite a few townhomes in Bowness and they've
Yeah.
been really well received. We're building up in Trinity Hills as well as a part of our
Oh,
rentals
awesome.
and that's been a really popular one too. Anything
Yeah.
that's relatively accessible from downtown. If you're within 15 minutes, I find that's a huge value add.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like I found just like even I think I kind of slept on Bonus a little bit historically. I think it kind of used to have a little bit of a bad rep, if you will, but I think
Hmm.
it's really changing, and I think over the next handful of years it'll just continue to grow. So,
How do you see Calgary changing over the next decade?
oh
Housing and
gosh.
finance and everything plays a huge part in that. But with the rezoning and everything going on, I always like to ask, what's your perspective on where Calgary's going?
Totally. Again, I mean, I feel like it's kind of hard to say. I do think now with the new meta that they just announced the other day, I think that will be awesome. So I think it's always hard to say. I think there's going to be a lot of change going on, especially in the inner city. We'll see how this kind of rezoning goes, but I think even when you drive around these communities, how vastly different they are in the last handful of years. And I think if you go another 5 years down the line, they're going to look very different again. So again, I wish I had a magic ball to say how I thought this city would be. I know
Hmm.
we like are so big on oil and gas, right? So it's always that's kind of been a big factor for us that we can hopefully continue to lean on.
Yeah.
But as far as yeah, like that the housing development, the communities, I mean, I think the city is still growing significantly. And I
Hmm.
think when you go outside, even the southeast areas, I mean, I grew up in Chaparral, which is was the very southeast of the city, and now,
Not
it
anymore.
goes community after community, right? So I don't particularly see that stopping.
No, not at all. And I'm opposite end, right in the Northwest, and we still
Okay.
continue to see, and we're building in Livingston, and that's another,
Yes.
good example of a beautiful, great master plan community, but around it continue to be new communities that are popping up. And I think it's
Hmm.
a testament for a number of things, but obviously Calgary being such an attractive city from a economic standpoint and affordability. We're seeing a lot of people, particularly in our rentals, who are just getting established here and wanting to move to the
Yeah.
city, and not even Calgary itself, but the outskirts as well, and Cochrane and Okotoks from
Hmm.
out of province, out of country. So I'm certainly bullish on the city. I love Calgary.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's going to continue to be a great place. But from a real estate perspective, I'm curious to see what happens over the next
For
decade.
sure. Yeah, yeah, it'll be interesting. And like you said, it's like as far as affordability goes amongst the country, when you compare it to other major cities, I mean, we're still very affordable.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean those markets are changing as well, but I'm always fascinated to see the new developments that are coming in, and particularly all the
Hmm.
new communities that are being built. I live right on the edge of town, so I get to watch these new communities being
Yeah.
developed. And is that an area that you touch on at all, like in terms of your clients, or do you typically see them just going directly to the builders?
As far as like new builds,
Yeah.
yeah, no, absolutely. We definitely have clients with the new builds. And I think now, especially for first time home buyers with the new GST rebate that's come out,
Hmm.
that's huge. So I think that is definitely something. I have actually a couple that are looking right now, and they're exactly first time home buyers. They moved here from another country years ago. So this is all a very new experience for them, but for them to be able to utilize something like that is massive, right? And like we're saying, to get them into something that's brand new, there's now financial incentive for them to come into it, and it's just a great start for them. So I think it's
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. And I'm finding too more and more, I don't believe it used to be like this, but that people who are going into new builds and working with, new home builders, new developers, that they have a realtor as a trusted representative to kind of walk me through the process.
Totally.
So uh, tell me how that process works for a new buyer. So they're not just going to the sales center, they're having a realtor kind of help them through the process.
100%. And I think this is something that a lot of people don't even know they can do, maybe, or they just assume that they should walk in. And again, it's not that the builders are bad people, but at the end of the day, the sales rep is representing the builder, and having someone when you're buying to come in and advocate for you, help you with negotiations, help you with the process, right? Especially if you're
Hmm.
a first time home buyer. Like I was saying, it's a very daunting process. And so I think just having someone where you can bounce questions off that is there advocating for you is massive. I mean, these are the biggest purchases of your lives, right? And so having that person that's there for you, and you have the sales rep there on the other side for the builder, I think it just makes for a really cohesive, easy process. So
Yeah. What are some things that you look for in a builder if you're going to take a client through one of their projects?
100%. I mean, I think quality for sure is just going through and seeing the quality of the build. I will say, I mean, I live in the inner city, so there's many developments that come up that you see the quality from house to house. And
Hmm.
you can walk in and even with a naked eye, or an inexperienced eye, you could see it. But I think when you've walked through a home, you probably just go into a building now and you start like eyeing things up. So
Yeah.
the quality of the build is huge. The reputation of the builder, how long have they been around? And not even that, but what are their reviews like? What are other people that have used them? What's their experience been? Because
Hmm.
again, you're going to be working with this person, so you want to make sure that they're being moral and there's good quality and all of that. So I think those would be definitely the biggest things that I'm looking for my clients when I'm taking them through.
Yeah, 100%. And in terms of the trusted advisor, like from your client side, how does that work to kind of walk them through everything? And how do you know, kind of being relatively new to the industry, what to look for from the builders as well?
Yeah, totally. And I think again, that's where having a mentor, like I feel very lucky to have that so that I can bounce anything off him as well. And that's wildly helpful. But yeah, I think just understanding, I mean, I've been through the process of building a home and going through that and being in a new build myself.
Hmm.
That's definitely something that I think has given me some experience in that. So
It can be intimidating, right? You have to choose your selection package, your appliances,
totally.
your upgrades. I mean, there's a lot of decisions to make. So yeah, having someone to help guide you through the process is really valuable.
For sure, for sure. And I found, to be honest, like I'm finishing up a deal with a client right now with a builder as well. And I've found just even how they've been has been so incredible in walking us through the process as well, right? Because it is so different than coming in and
Hmm.
buying a resale home.
Yeah, there's a lot more nuances
For
and
sure,
intricacies to it.
for sure.
And as it relates to that as well, like do you find that the builders are friendly? I know in the past, that there's a little bit of this between realtors and home builders.
Totally, totally. And again, in my like short experience, I've had very, very positive experience. So I do feel very lucky for that because exactly, I do think there's this kind of like, someone stepping on someone's toes. And at the end of the day, I don't think it needs to be that way. We're all here to get the same result. We all
Hmm.
want the client to be happy with the home that they're purchasing. And
Correct.
so I think it's how you're approaching it and how you're communicating with the builder as the realtor. I don't need to come in and be a bad guy. I just want to get the best deal for my clients and work with you guys because we like your product.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a win-win. And that's why we started offering full realtor commission. And I know some
Yeah,
builders don't. Some builders will just provide a small incentive. But at the end
totally.
of the day, you have clients that you're representing who are looking to buy a new home, and we have homes that we are selling. And if we can
100%.
both help, that person find the right place, then it's a win.
100%. And like we're saying too, it's like the process can actually be so much more extensive from the representation side than just buying a resale home. So I
Mhm.
think it's great that you guys are doing stuff like that for the agents too.
Yeah. So, um, last question.
Yeah.
What is your favorite part of the city? And do you have a recommended favorite restaurant to recommend?
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I am an inner city girl. I live in North Leavenworth Park, so I'm like Marta Loop, inner city. I love Altadore, all of those kind of areas. So that's where I love to hang out. I think we've got great walkability. It kind of gives you the best of both worlds. So I will probably be here for the rest of my life. And as far as restaurants, I mean, Bar Roca is right next to us. It's a wine bar,
Mm,
so I don't know if that counts. And then Dopo is right underneath. So those would be probably my two first recommendations.
I've heard great things about Dopo.
You need to go.
Yeah,
It's hard. It
absolutely.
can be hard to get in, but if you go on the wait list or book ahead, it's well worth it.
Amazing. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. It was great meeting you. And to any buyers out there, or sellers, how do they find you?
Yeah, perfect. So I'm on Instagram. I can drop my handle below, but it's Rachel underscore Jones or Rachel Jones underscore. So I'll tag that down below. And then I'm again with Top Calgary Real Estate. So we are located in Mission or in oh my gosh, my words. We're located in Marda Loop. And my email, which I can also drop below, is rj@topcalgaryrealestate.com.
Amazing. Well, thank you again for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.